What if parent volunteers were empowered partners in building a school's culture of collaboration?
Intentional and purposeful focus on building a culture of collaboration is the secret for leaders striving to make a difference. In building a culture of collaboration, Kurtis and Lorna Hewson will share simple tips, ideas, and strategies to take your organization's collaborative efforts to the next level.
Welcome to another episode of Building a Culture of Collaboration. As always, I'm Kurtis Hewson, lead learner and co-founder of Jigsaw Learning.
And I'm Lorna Hewson. We're joined today by Christina Hidek, a former litigation attorney turned professional organizer and parent leader. With more than a decade of experience in nearly every school volunteer role, including 5 terms as PTA president, Christina has seen how empowering and supporting parent volunteers can transform the way schools build community.
Through her work now with PTO Answers, she helps parent groups avoid overwhelm and focus on what truly matters, creating joyful, collaborative school communities. We're so excited to explore with Christina how school leaders can strengthen collaboration by engaging families as authentic partners. So, Christina, great to have you join us today.
I'm so excited to talk with you guys. I especially love talking with Canadians, I must confess.
Yay. Well, good. We like talking with us too, but we also like talking with everyone else. You're joining us, you said before, from Ohio.
Yes, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. But as I told you before, we hit that magic record button. I did live in Ontario, in Nepean, which is now, I think, part of Ottawa. It got consolidated, I guess. I lived there for 3 years. So sometimes I'm at business events and there will be a Canadian in the mix. And I'm like, what part of Canada are you from? They're like, how can you tell? And I was like, well, your vowels. And you refer to the Girl Guides instead of the Girl Scouts. And I was like, it's a dead giveaway.
Those are the indicators.
I don't know what this is, but we usually get I figured you were either from Canada or Wisconsin. It was one of the two. I don't know what that connection is.
I think it's the vowels.
It must be. All right. So just to play on that, we'd love to learn a little bit more about you and love to hear from you, Christina, about your journey. When we first did some investigation and seeing going from litigation attorney to the work you do now, that's a little bit different.
Huge jump.
So we'd love to hear about that journey and why now you're so passionate about parents being part of a school's collaborative culture.
So I started off my career as a litigation attorney, and then I had kids, and I actually wanted to see them.
Yeah.
So I not quickly, but I eventually transitioned out of that role, and I'm now as a recovering attorney. And when my kids started school, I knew I wanted to get involved because I selfishly wanted to make more friends. Here in Cleveland, we have 2 very well-established hospital systems. So there's a lot of young families moving in, but then also out when they get placed into their residencies or their full-time positions. So I was looking for some friends, and I thought, and I really wanted to give back to my kids' schools. My mom is a teacher, and so I understood the importance of involvement. And so it served a couple different things. And then once I got involved, the reason I stayed involved is because I saw how it was benefiting me personally as my kids, my family, but then everybody else's kids. Yeah. And I just saw that it was that parent involvement enriches the school community unlike anything else can. Mm-hmm. And I know what it's done for me. And then when I started getting involved, I've held every position except for treasurer because math and it's very embarrassing. We do not get along. Even simple math, my husband will be like, how did you do that? I'm like, a special skill. I don't know. That's why I went to law school, and then I married an MBA, so he can do all the math for me.
It's a great math.
Good planning.
Yeah, well done.
It is almost like I planned it, which I did. And, but I saw that it was really hard. I'm like, why are there not more resources to help parents? Because it's not like it's not of value. Because usually when there's no information about something, it's because it's not valuable and people don't need it. This is quite the opposite. schools do need this, and why like school leaders are not trained about working with, managing, supporting school parent groups, I don't understand. I didn't understand it until more recently, when I actually have written a book now, 15 years into my PTO career. And I think that it's not been done before because there wasn't the expertise, because it's not something you're going to learn on the education side.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was going through the whole publishing process, I had, you get feedback from people. And one person was like, she doesn't understand. She doesn't have an education degree. And I'm like, that's why it's okay, because we're not talking about education. It's an affiliated organization that just happens to be working in a school, but it's not really education related. So I started to develop systems and resources for parent leaders as I recognized there was a need, and I love a good system. So that's where the tie-in back to the being an attorney really comes into play. I love organization and system because if you are not organized, you are going to miss a deadline and get fired, if not sued by your clients, and get yelled at by the judge probably too. So that never happened to me because I am so organized. But I developed these systems over the years, and now I have resources for, like, you name a role and I have it. And I do have resources for treasurers because I volunteered my husband one time to be a treasurer. And then when he developed those systems, I go, ooh, I want to steal those because I know other people can use those too.
You are singing our song too,
We are
because
systems people too.
we firmly believe that how can you have effective collaboration within the school, outside of the school, within any organization, if you don't have systems in place in which to engage and operate? Effective collaboration is not just people getting along and working together. It's focused.
It's being strategic. Yes, it's being strategic, and it's being authentic. And it's like schools would not operate without systems. Like, they have so many different layers of systems. So it makes me sad that more schools don't enjoy the opportunities that school parent groups present, and then they're not taking advantage of like the collaborative wonderfulness that can come about. I think have I answered your question? That's
you
how
absolutely
now, and it's just been like a process, because I realized, like, I think I started I have a Facebook group with like 8,000 members in it now, and it's really fabulous because there's no drama, and I don't let in fundraising professionals, so it's truly just parents and school leaders and teachers and school staff that are all similarly minded with wanting to improve their school communities and looking for those answers. And it's just a fabulous resource, but having all the different voices in there has really just shown me even more of where the needs are, what some of the trends are. So it's not just my personal experience. It's more, how you meet other people. It's like networking, and you learn from others. And people ask you questions like, how am I going to do XYZ? I had a reader she had like a whole list of like 8 different questions, and I just kept copying and pasting links to my blog articles. And I was like, here you go. Bam, 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 bam. Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, Christina, you talked a little bit about how you feel that parent groups are underutilized in schools. And from your perspective, what makes these groups such a powerful but sometimes overlooked collaborative partner for school leaders?
They can really do things that school employees, school administrators, teachers cannot. Specifically, parents can say things that school employees cannot. We can say things in ways that school employees cannot. So, for example, if you have, like, my school district is very diverse economically, racially. I don't know about the religion, but it's pretty diverse. And there are some families who choose not to use public education in our community. They go to like the private schools because it really comes down to an issue of racism, honestly. So like I can call that out if I'm talking with another parent who's like, I've heard things about XY school. And I'm like, what have you heard? Because I've been through that school. I've had 2 kids go. Well, my youngest is now a senior in high school. So they're almost through the entire system, K to 12. But I can say that. I can say, I think that rumor was started maybe like 12 years ago, and it's not true anymore. And it sounds like it's kind of rooted in racism a little bit. Like a principal can't say that. A superintendent can't say that. They would get, can you imagine the blowback? So you have that possibility where you can really cut through to the heart of the issue. And then you have the collaboration possibilities for fundraising. Like you already, with parents represent a lot of times untapped potential and energy where they want to improve the school community, but maybe don't know how, because maybe they don't know the needs. Well, that's where partnering with the school comes to benefit everybody, because the school leader can say, you know what? We really need new equipment, or the playground is falling apart and it's just not in the budget because we had some come out. You know how things happen. There's like an inspection came up and it turns out it was in worse condition than we thought. And so we need some help fundraising for that. You have a like ready-made group of people to do the work for you. Investigating playground equipment, that's maybe not on like the school leader's expertise. Like a lot of times buildings are renovated and it's the school leader who's making the decisions, but they went to school to learn how to be an educator, not how to be like a space planner or an architect. So that to me is a little bonkers that that's delegated to them. But you have that, there's just, I could go on and on. There's so many things beyond just multiplying the person power to make things happen. That it just really, they can provide such richness that you can't replicate other places, because you can't, schools can't afford it, for one.
It's interesting when you're sharing we can say things that schools can't. So as a school principal, I'm dating myself here, when we had started in the early days of Facebook, a Facebook page for the school as a way to communicate out. Another means of communication and networking and just ensuring everyone was on the same page. And by having the trusted relationships and partnerships with parents, we could have somebody go and put something on the web page that was not accurate or was venting something. And as a principal, I'd see it and go, oh my goodness. And then boom, a parent would jump in and say, actually, it's not like that. Here's what we're seeing, but definitely reach out to Kurtis if you have further questions. I know he'd love to talk. And I would send the message to that person and just say, thank you. Thank you so much. You helped tremendously in that situation. Like that was just a small little example, but why that partnership and relationship is so important.
I was just thinking too, is that positive relationship that was developed allowed that to happen. So those connections are really important.
So I know, Christina, you had talked about having a story connected to parent-teacher conferences that really highlights what can be missed when parents aren't fully included in that conversation. Love for you to share it with us and how it illustrates the importance of collaboration with parent groups.
Yeah, so this was a situation pulled from my direct experience. Sometimes I pull in stories that other people have told me because they're like troubleshooting things, but this one was actually what I experienced. So a couple of years ago, well, I guess it was during the pandemic, our school district migrated to a digital parent-teacher conference booking system.
Okay.
Where you would sign up for who you wanted to meet with. So you know that the most engaged parents are the ones who are signing up for conferences, right?
Yeah.
Not the parents that are just like barely slowing down to let their kids roll out of the car in the morning. These are highly engaged parents.
It's funny you mentioned that, because we always had conversations in our school that we're meeting and helping to support child's learning, but the people that we'd really like to have a conversation with are not walking through the door necessarily without us being thoughtful in how we do that.
That's right. So the system allowed you to do either, I think after the pandemic, they kept the software, but you could schedule an in-person, so like go into the school, or a virtual appointment, right? So embracing the technology that we have, why not? It streamlines everything. Well, the problem is that there was like a setup issue that it came to be, that the teachers couldn't tell if you were supposed to be coming in, if the parents had selected to come in or have a virtual conference.
Mhm.
So if you chose a virtual conference, you didn't get a call and you didn't get a link to join like the Google Meet or whatever. So the conferences weren't happening.
Oh, no.
The teachers thought the parents were no showing in the building.
Right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the parents thought that the teachers were blowing them off when they really wanted to talk about their child.
Yeah. Huge
Oh, no.
communication
Huge
breakdown. Yeah.
communication. Yeah.
Not good at all.
No.
So we have a PTA meeting in November, which is the month after conferences happen here in October, typically, and at least in my school. And I brought this up and I was like, hey, I'm not getting calls. And the issue that I just described, we didn't know what the cause was, that it was a technical setup issue. But at the meeting, we had the teacher liaison as well as the principal.
Mhm.
And it was a PTA meeting. So a lot of the parents were there.
Yeah.
Oh, the parents, the most active members, because you know how that is. Not everyone comes to every meeting. And so then I go, this is an issue. This has happened for like two different cycles now, where I'm not getting calls from certain teachers. And then we figured out that it was a setup issue and that the teachers didn't know this.
Yeah.
And then because everybody was in the room, we talked about how to fix it right then and there. And within 15 minutes, we'd brought up the issue, that figured out what the actual issue was, that was a technical setup issue, and came up with a solution, which was to have one dedicated night for just in person and one dedicated night for on the virtual, so that there'd be no question. And it was as simple as that, but having the parents there along with the teacher who had experience for setting up the scheduling on her end, and the principal there allowed us to really solve the issue and come up with a good solution. Like I said, in 15 minutes. How often does that happen when an issue is discovered, discussed, and resolved in 15 minutes in a school?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, and I could see a situation too where without that relationship and that, again, meaningful collaboration, it could be the school saying, thank you for letting us know, we will take care of it, and might come up with a solution that actually isn't as effective at what you're able to do when working through it together.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just really useful. And I just was like, in the moment, I didn't recognize it for what it was. But later, upon reflection, I was like, that kind of crystallizes everything.
Yeah.
It shows if you don't have the people in the room, I guess this goes back to Hamilton and music. I want to be in the room where the decisions are made,
Yeah.
You have to be in the room, people. So you have to be open to that. So you had to have a principal who was willing to come.
Yeah.
Who recognized the value of the group and came after hours, after he worked all day and still came. And same with the teacher liaison. She was actually a substitute teacher liaison that night who was standing in for the regular one. So you had it just was a nice confluence of people being willing to put in the work and being open to what could be.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Christina, in many schools, parent groups operate alongside the staff and admin, but they don't always factor into decision making. How can school leaders more intentionally bring these groups into the process in ways that can strengthen that collaboration? You've already been talking about, through your example, that we need the people in the room together to be more efficient and make those decisions as you go along.
What are some other ways that you've experienced? We'll be right back to continue this episode. Struggling to facilitate your first collaborative team meeting? We know that running effective, impactful team meetings can feel overwhelming, but we've got you covered. The Collaborative Team Meeting Starter Kit gives you everything you need to set up, organize, and lead meetings that foster real collaboration and results. And the best part, it's completely free. Inside, you'll get a real-life collaborative team meeting vignette, a ready-to-use CTM agenda and notes template to keep meetings structured and efficient, a pre-meeting organizer to help teachers prepare effectively, printable meeting role displays to ensure smooth facilitation, a facilitator support guide with step-by-step instructions, as well as a key issue process poster to reinforce the structured problem solving of a collaborative team meeting. All of this to help you start transforming your team meetings today. Download your free collaborative team meeting starter kit now at bit.ly/CTM starter, all one word. That's bit.ly/CTM starter, or find it under the resources tab on jigsawlearning.ca. And now back to our conversation.
So the best way that it's the least amount of work for the school leader, because we all know that school leaders' plates are like piled high with expectations and demands. It's really to have an authentic relationship with the president of the school parent group so that they don't have to developing that one-on-one relationship that's really strong. And then you will find that it's less work to manage everybody else because the president of the group is similarly situated to the school leader, the principal in the group, because they should be knowing everything that's going on in the parent group, not necessarily doing it all, but knowing what's going on and being knowledgeable about that. And then also that's the same for the principal. They're not doing it all, but they certainly know what's going on, or should know. If they're a good principal, they know what's going on in their building. And then putting those two leaders together is going to lay a foundation so that they can work together. So what I recommend is having a meeting right when school gets out or right before school gets out with like the incoming president should meet with the principal, get on the same page about what's going to come up, because the parent leaders will be working over the summer. Sometimes they'll take a month, take some summer break off, right? From school, enjoy summer, enjoy the relaxed schedules. But then they'll also start planning for the upcoming year, because nothing that the PTOs do happens just like last minute. The best groups are planning well in advance. Well, if the groups are not planning with the school in mind and vice versa, you're going to have conflict.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolute direct conflict, like that event cannot happen, one, or a time conflict where you have you have an activity every single night of the week, which is too much for anybody. So you want to really have the principal and president sit down right when school gets out to talk about communication. How do we want to communicate? Let's get clear on that. Because if you're not communicating well, then everything else breaks down.
For sure.
Then you want to talk about plans for events, fundraising, see what the school has planned, see what work the parents can come in and do, see what needs there are of the school as far as financial resources. And then see where you can work together. There was some legislation passed in Ohio that required a parent and student education, relating to prevention of sexual violence and online bullying. So our PTO had already, I think somebody had gone to the state PTA conference, and there were two speakers there whose son had unfortunately been a victim of cyber bullying and had taken his life. And so now they go and speak and to kind of raise awareness to help other families and help other children not fall victim to what happened with their son. And so someone had said, I think this was very powerful. I think we should have them come speak to our high school, and family. So it would be an evening event. So we were arranging this. And then the school got wind of what we were doing, because of course we had to submit a building permit to use the space at night. And they said, "Ooh, we want on this because this will help us with the legislative requirements for the education.
Yeah.
And we will expand the program by making sure that we have social workers on hand to help any families who need extra support. So it went from just a mere presentation to more of a more well-rounded event with more available support on site for families. So it ended up being really, really nice. And it checked off a whole bunch of boxes on everybody's on everybody's list.
You know, it's interesting because I reflect back to my time as a principal, and I can remember, like, I had multiple parent chairs of the parent group, and one in particular, her and I had a great relationship. We would be talking on a consistent basis, but and being proactive, just like you're sharing, and we'd have that conversation at the start every time before we called it our school council meeting. Before our school council, her and I would always meet together to look at the agenda and what do we need to have on it from both sides. But if I was to go back and do this now, I think, knowing what I know about strong collaborative structures, I'd want to set up some norms with the person to say, okay, how do we agree to communicate, like you said? And do we agree that when we meet, our conversations, we can go back and forth, but we leave united? Like, setting those norms, I think, would be super valuable. And I think I would now have a regular scheduled time to be able to say, okay, we agree that every 2 weeks we are going to meet at this time. And if it doesn't work on a certain week, we'll shift. But to make that a regular part and have a regular standard agenda of what are the things we typically want to look at. And I can give this person heads up. They can give me heads up. We could be planning agendas. Like, I think I would systematize that much more than just you call me if there's an issue and I'll call you if there's something, and then we'll meet before the meeting to get an agenda ready.
Which really
absolutely
enhances that collaboration and enhances
100%.
the opportunities that an event or a project can be really well coordinated and supported by both parents and the school community.
Well, yeah. And what it does is it really communicates that the principal is valuing the school parent group, respecting them, because I've worked with really good principals who totally understood the value of school parent groups. And I've worked with some who just thought we were a waste of time and were very disrespectful. And that was very difficult.
Yeah, I bet.
But, yeah, you're right. The regular meeting. So you meet before school lets out and then meet again right before school starts, just to get on the same page, see what's changed, because maybe the school parent group has come up with some additional ideas. Typically, the cycle of new parent leaders follows the school year, right? They all come on right at the end of the school year, or if people move, there are replacements and additions made over the summer, and hopefully you have everybody in place in the fall. And then, meeting, I usually recommend once a month, every 2, I think it would probably depend on what you have going on. If you have a really big initiative, like a new playground build, maybe you do need to meet more regularly than that, but maybe it could be an email too. I think you can really dial it up or dial it down.
But if you could establish those conditions for a trusting relationship where now it becomes truly collaborative, where you and I are meeting, I'm representing the school, you're representing the parent group, we all have the exact same outcome that we're looking for, which is success for our kids. But for me to be able to say, hey, we're thinking about this change to our dismissal policy. What do you think? And for you to say, I'd be scared to do that. Or let me put out some feelers with some people and gather a bit of input before you go forward. And then for the parent group to say, we're thinking about this initiative. And for us to say, oh, the timing's not great on that. But if we could look at that in about 3 weeks' time, that actually would align perfectly. You could head off so many things that wouldn't have to surface in the public meeting space if you had those systems.
Yeah, but you're also making everybody feel like they're valued. When you have that level, when you're thinking about, oh, this affects more than just me. We had one situation where the last meeting of the school year, the principal accidentally mentioned that they were totally changing the specials. So now they're either called specials or encore or whatever, but it's like not the core subjects. It was
Yeah.
art, music, PE, and STEM, that they were changing it from like a every 3-day rotation to where you'd like rotate through. So over 2 weeks, you were getting them all to you just have one for an entire semester. You're only getting gym for one semester out of your 3 years here at the school. Like it was a massive change. She just kind of like mentioned it. And we were like, wait, what?
Say that again.
Say that, yes. Say that again, because I don't think that you understand. Like, so it ended up being a huge thing right at the end of the school year and blew up in a big way to where the assistant superintendent had to hold separate meetings, and they ended up modifying it not in the way they wanted because it served the teachers, but it did not serve the students.
Yeah.
Because like some parents came and they said, my child hates music. So you're going to tell them that I have to get them to go to school when they live for sports, and I can at least get them saying it's PE today. I have to send them, somehow get them to school every day when they know they have music every day.
Yeah.
It didn't work. It's like,
it's fascinating as you share that, Christina, because even in your languaging of in that scenario, they, the teachers, and us, the parents, and we often talk about, we know we're not in a collaborative space when it's them and us or vice versa. But when we can be at a place of, we've been investigating some different ways to deliver the specials.
And we're looking at this together.
The school has been considering this, and we see some value in that, but we're also considering that, you see, even just that simple language, when we have that collaborative of, now we're in we's a conversation rather than them and us.
Well, and I'm sure that the intent was, I don't even know that they did it intentionally, but the result was disastrous. And maybe they were like, oh, it won't be a big deal. Like it'll be fine. So they'll get it it's the same amount of time. It's just condensed and whatever. But they didn't talk to the other stakeholders to realize that it was a big deal. And it was the discounting of the stakeholders that caused the issue. But again, I was very glad that the PTO existed, because if that principal had not been at that meeting, we wouldn't have known about it until the changes had already been implemented in the next school year.
Yeah. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Well, and part of it is, like you said, it could be unintentional, totally, that they had just had lots of conversations about how they were going to make those adjustments, not really even considering another perspective. And that's part of the beauty of being able to have a parent and school collaboration
relationship,
because you get the other side or the other perspective that you so much need to make good decisions.
I have no idea that your child is crying every morning before coming because today's a day for phys ed, and they hate getting changed in front of other kids. Simple scenario,
main
right?
Reason. Yes, exactly. Well, I just think it just goes to show that that was clearly a principal who did not get it. So I've had the pleasure of working, most of the principals have been the opposite of that. But that was a principal that we constantly had to work at, to be like, we are here. And I want to hear from you, and communication is an issue. And she's like, communication is an issue. And I was like, I kind of tried to say this without saying that it's really bad. And being kind and assuming good intentions on all, but we have a problem here. So
absolutely.
But it can really get you into trouble. But I think, part of this is that school leaders don't have the training on what PTOs and PTAs look like, and don't understand the structural differences. And I think on both sides, there's an issue with like not recognizing the training that respective parties get, or in almost all cases don't get. Like principals don't get trained on how to work with or manage or support, or the basics of PTOs and PTAs. And PTO leaders who are stepping up into a leadership role do not necessarily have resources or training about how to do their job. So they are literally just coming in with whatever life experience they have thus far. That could be a good thing, but it also could be really challenging if you have a brand new green volunteer who has a lot of passion, but has never maybe worked outside their home.
Yeah, that's right.
Or
I've
is
had
in like, retail, and that's not the same as being a treasurer, for example,
Well, and you even mentioned at the start of the podcast that mindset of the work is for the betterment of all students. It's not just how do you get what you want for your kids, recognizing that that might be 2 to 5 individuals in the building, but there's a larger population to also consider. So how do you collaborate even within the parent group?
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
So
I think the parents who are involved long term understand that it's for everybody. So when I say my kids, it's not the ones that I actually birthed, It's all of the kids, because I'll say our kids are so nice, because on the whole, even they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Kids at the high school are really good kids. And there's a couple that I have to be like, you can't say that around me. Clean up your language.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're good kids.
So I'm going to come at it a little bit from the principal perspective of, we know it's a busy job and there's lots of people with busy jobs, but leaders, I know they can often get overwhelmed by, I've got one more responsibility. And let's be critically honest that working and engaging with your PTO, PTA, it is one more thing on the plate. It's an important part of the plate, but it's one more. So I would love to hear from your experience, Christina. What are some practical strategies that you could share for leveraging parent groups as collaborative partners without it feeling like, oh, this is just one more thing I have to do? We'll be right back to continue this episode. It doesn't take long for any teacher to realize that explicit expectations and routines are necessary for a large group of students to engage in meaningful activity, regardless of what they teach. Although we recognize this is true for any classroom, we don't always take the same care to design careful expectations and routines for adults. We establish a time to meet and clarify a purpose, then bring team members together. Since we are all adults, there is no need for rules of engagement, but very quickly we discover, just like in the classroom, dysfunctions within the team will persist, such as coming late, checking phones consistently, working on sending emails throughout the meeting, along with many others. So how do we guard against this happening? The easy answer is we need to co-develop team norms. Download our free Guide for Leaders to Develop, Sustain, and Reinforce Effective Norms for Team Success. This guide provides you with step-by-step instructions on how to develop your team norms. Access the guide at bit.ly/Team Norms Guide. That's bit.ly/Team Norms Guide. Norms provide the essential foundation for our teams to commit to working together, reflecting on what each team member needs to be successful and leading to the articulation of an agreed upon set of guidelines assist us when working effectively as a team. And now back to our conversation.
So at first you have to be really honest that everything worthwhile takes some investment.
Yeah.
So know that you're going to need to put some time and effort into it, but it's going to pay off in spades down the road.
Yeah.
Also, you are not the only person that should be like in contact with the PTO. You need to get a teacher liaison. And actually, the request for the teacher liaison should not come from the principal, because the teachers, that could put them in a weird position. But that's a suggestion to make to the PTO president, to be like, let's loop in the staff here. So then you have the teacher liaison who can come to the meetings, share like information about what's going on in different departments, share information that they think parents need to know. And then the teachers can take back ways to support the PTO or things that are going on with the PTO, programs that are coming up, events, things like that, can share that with the staff so that they can tell their students and also families. So it's really spreading the workload.
Yeah.
So I think when you have the principal and the teacher liaison, and the liaison position can be one person or it can be a committee of teachers.
Yeah.
There are different pros and cons to to both. If you have one person, then you have a really strong relationship. Like my high school PTO has had the same teacher liaison for 5 or 6 years now. And we're text buddies. Like she texted me happy birthday over in the middle of the summer. And I was like,
Nice.
oh, that was very nice of her. Because I don't know when her birthday is. I have no idea how she knows. We're not Facebook friends, but she knew it was my birthday somehow. And I was like, well, that was very nice. So I've gotten to know her really well, and we've been able to have some very, very frank conversations, which has served us well. To be honest, because again, it goes back to we had a new administrator and there were issues, and I was like, I can say things to the principal that you can't say because she's not my boss.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was like, I know there are problems. So just tell me honestly, it's not going to leave here. Do you trust me to frame it in a way that works well? And because the conference issue had come up with our previous principal who passed away. And then we have a whole new administrative team in last year who didn't know about the conference issue. And everybody was kind of anticipating an issue because things had not been running smoothly. And so I was able to suggest to the principal, hey, we solved this issue last time. And I'm not sure it was documented because things were a little goofy.
Yeah.
And then turns out the conferences were fine because they used the system. And the teacher, though, trusted me to tell, what was going on. Or in a committee setting, then you have more people who know about it and can talk. So you have more points of contact, which it just works differently because you have different opportunities for personalities to get together, and match, and where you feel closer, you have a different affinity for people. And it can take off the workload if they're only going to 1 or 2 PTO meetings a year. So it's not such a big ask. And then the principal, if they have assistant principals, they should be leveraging them too, because those are all great people. And that will help the assistant principals if they don't want to stay an assistant principal forever and want to grow their leadership and understanding about how to work better with parents when they're attending.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I love the idea of having teacher representation. That's a great perspective to add to the team, but it also provides support for the admin, for the principal as well. But being able to bounce those ideas between parents, admin, and teachers is a great collaboration.
But I think what's key with starting that too, and we used to do it within our school council groups, is can we establish what do we all have in common in this room in relation to the kids?
What's our purpose?
What's our purpose? And if we can all agree that we're here to see every child have success in our school, for every child to feel safe and that they're making progress, then now we can work together on this clear purpose. And you mentioned it before, just getting really clear on how we work together and why. What's the bigger benefit for us?
Yeah. And then also when you do that, that also encourages people to leave their egos, to check their egos at the door.
Yeah.
It really isn't about me. Like, I don't do this because of me.
Yeah.
I do it because I really enjoy the community and the school community. And that's why I continue to do it. Because everything, as I get older, I realize everything is relationship based.
Yeah.
And the relationships that I've developed throughout the years of doing this with the teachers, with the staff members, with the administrators, and the students, like kids were like, oh, you're so-and-so's mom. I always see you at the football games, making popcorn or doing whatever. I'm like, hi. Like, I'll see them at Costco and they're like, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah, you're seeing me out of context.
Yeah.
I have popcorn kernels all over me, but yes, I am her.
Oh, so true. So, how do you, in your current work, support both schools and parent groups? What is the work that you are currently doing?
What does that look like
in terms of supporting school?
So really, it's just educating and providing resources for the school leaders as well as the parent volunteers. I initially started out with just resources for the parent volunteers. And then I realized, hey, wait a minute, we're missing a huge stakeholder because that it's the relationship that the PTO has with the principal is like the most important one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Other really important relationships are with the custodians and with the office administrator and with the teachers, of course. But the primary one is with the principal. And I really wanted to make it easier for people to get involved in their school and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Because too often I have yet to see any positive reflections or representations of school parent groups in the media.
Mm.
You think about like American Housewife. I don't know if that even aired in Canada, but
it certainly did.
Oh, did it? Okay. I believe not a positive representation. The movie Bad Moms. I didn't even make it through the entire movie because they were being so negative about school parent groups and just making fun of them. And I'm like, but the work that I am doing, that just like hurt my soul. And I thought it was not funny at all. And my husband's like, you can't laugh at yourself. I go, it's not funny. It's making fun of something that's really important and making it seem like it doesn't have value and that we should just be ridiculing it instead of celebrating it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still haven't seen that movie. I just struggled there really is no positive representation. So how empowering is that to get involved? If you think you're going to be signing up for moms that have nothing better to do than argue about school decorations, that you're getting voluntold to make cupcakes even though your son has a gluten allergy and you can't bring wheat into your home. Like that's actually happened to one of my friends. She couldn't make it to the meeting, but somehow found herself in charge of making dozens of gluten.
Oh boy.
Yes, it was horrible. So it's just like, enough of that. Let's actually turn this into a positive because I know the good that can come from it.
Yeah.
And I know that if it was easier for principals, if they understood what groups look like and how they should be working, rather than having to learn it on the job as they go and learning from mistakes, because that takes a whole lot of time. And at the end of the day, you still might not have all the right answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, why not? I have all of this experience, firsthand experience, secondhand experience from my fabulous Facebook group members. And then the background of being so organized in systems that I just put it all together for the resources for everybody. And it's quite remarkable that I just can't believe that it hasn't been done before. Like I just published my book, the Principal's Parent Group Handbook. And when I was doing, before you do anything, you always check out to see what's been done before.
Yeah.
I was shocked to learn. Do you know the last time that a book was originally published, not republished, about PTOs and PTAs? Like if you do a search in Google, you will find that it was at the turn of the century. And I don't mean 2000. I mean 1900s.
Oh, wow.
I am not joking. So yes, that was the last book I could find. And I'm like, I think things have changed since 1906.
Yeah.
Because education certainly has.
Oh, that's for sure.
So, Christina, with this, you mentioned the Principal's Parent Group Handbook. How do people find your website where you've got resources, blogs, and that, and the Facebook group? You've mentioned that a couple times. How can people become a part of that group as well? And how could someone reach out directly to you if they had further questions?
Yeah, I love to hear from people. I love to get all the questions. My website is ptoanswers.com, and you can get links to everything right there. The Facebook group, I will send you the link because I think I forgot to get that link to you for the Facebook group. It's called the PTO Superstar Leaders Group.
Nice.
So, did you guys ever watch Saturday Night Live?
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes, always.
Okay, you know Molly Shannon, the
Superstar.
Catholic
Yeah.
school girl,
Yeah.
with Mary Margaret Gallagher, where she's
Yep.
superstar.
Superstar.
Molly Shannon is from Shaker Heights, which is right next to where I grew up.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
And so it's an inside joke with myself.
that's an
Nice.
awesome joke.
And
That's great.
for email, how could people reach you?
Yeah, just Christina at PTOanswers.com.
Excellent. Well, this has been such a pleasure, Christina, and just the conversations and just really thinking about the importance of those parent groups and building those relationships that are so critical to success.
Thank you so much for joining us, Christina.
Thank you. I've so enjoyed our time together.
All right, take care.
Take care.
All right, so through our conversation with Christina, it's no surprise for us that we hear relationships and the importance of communication. We hear that over and over, that how can you have really substantial collaborative efforts happening in your organization if you're not paying attention to the relationships, and that communication is a big part of being able to collaborate well.
Yeah, and I love the fact that she spoke to the idea of systems and how important it is to establish those systems so that you can build relationships and the communication comes out of those systems.
Absolutely. And the idea is when we can, and we've been talking lots about creating collaborative structures amongst your staff teams within schools and applying it to larger or different organizations. But when you're thinking about your parent group, the same principles apply of how do we bring diverse perspectives in, and how can we be making decisions together if we're not all in the room?
Yeah.
Or sorry, representation of each other within the room.
And really valuing those different perspectives. And I just think about without having that relationship in place, especially with principals and with teachers, with their parents, without having all of them represented, then we're going to do duplicate work or contradicting work, even at the worst case scenario, because the parent council is going to be working on one hand and the school on another, when actually we know that if they're working together, so much more is accomplished and makes things so much better for kids.
Well, and like I said in the episode, knowing what I know now about effective collaboration, could go back to my former principal self when engaging with our parent lead, Ruth. Shout out, Ruth. I hope everything is well if you're listening. We had a great ad hoc relationship, but we know that ad hoc work is valuable, but can sometimes lead to reactive situations. I would systematize that now to be able to say, okay, let's have a regular time, whatever that cadence is, every 3 weeks, every month, where we're going to meet, we're going to have a standard agenda. We're going to actually have a chance to sit down and talk about what do we both want to accomplish through this work, and what are the norms that we have established, like all the things we've learned that make for effective collaboration. I would have applied into that relationship and again, set up a consistent agenda that when we meet, here's the things that we know we're going to be focusing in on. We would have put so much into that. And with that question of, how do you ensure it's not an additional burden? If you create the system, it's not a burden. It's just part of your natural routine and rhythm.
Well, and remembering the importance and the possibilities that are generated by having that relationship.
Absolutely.
The other thing that we talk a lot about in our work is having the right people at the table to be able to have the right conversations. And if you are meeting as a parent council without your school representation, then that becomes disjointed, or it becomes even more work because somebody in that team has to go and report to the admin or have the conversation with the admin. The admin shares back, and then that person comes back. Like it becomes the own tag.
So hopefully people have been able to gather something from this conversation. Please check out ptoanswers.com and connect with Christina if you have further questions or looking for further resources. As always, as we wrap up, encourage you to rate and review, share the show, provide some comments, and please go to jlinsiders.com in order to sign up for our newsletter to find out when new episodes drop, gather additional resources, and access the content that we're putting out to be able to help support people in building these highly robust cultures of collaboration in their organizations. So that's jlinsiders.com. Hope you sign up, and looking forward to having you join us in a future episode.
See you soon.
Jigsaw Learning, founded by Kurtis and Lorna Hewson, is a team of educators who work with schools, districts, and educational leaders to establish collaborative response to ensure success for all students. Because every child deserves a team.